The evening was cold, the kind that makes your hands go numb even if you try to keep them in your pockets. People hurried down the busy streets, heads bent against the wind, collars pulled up, not stopping for anything. Cars rushed by there, lights flashing like streaks of gold on the wet pavement. The city was alive, but for one girl sitting near the corner of a closed shop, it felt like the whole world had left her behind. She was young, maybe 19 or 20, but life had already made her look older than her years. Her clothes were thin, the jacket she wore had a broken zipper, and her shoes had holes near the toes. She sat with her knees pulled up, arms wrapped tight around herself, trying to stay warm. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. The hunger made her stomach twist and burn, but she had gotten used to that feeling over the past few weeks. Sometimes kind people gave her half-eaten sandwiches or leftover coffee. Other times she found nothing. That evening, as she sat there watching the world pass her by, her eyes fell on something lying near the edge of the sidewalk. It was half hidden under a small pile of wet leaves, almost blending into the dark pavement. She blinked twice to be sure, then slowly got up and walked toward it. It was a wallet. A thick, expensive-looking leather wallet. Her heart gave a small jump. She picked it up carefully, glancing around to see if anyone was watching. The street was busy, but nobody seemed to notice her. She opened the wallet with trembling hands. Inside, there were crisp dollar bills, hundreds, maybe more than 1,000. She counted quickly, her breath catching in her throat. It was enough to feed her for months, maybe even get her a room somewhere. For a long moment, she just stood there holding it, the cold wind biting her face while her mind raced. She could take this money. Nobody would know. Nobody would care. People walked past her every day without even looking at her. What difference would it make? But then she saw the other things inside the wallet. There were credit cards, a driver's license, and a business card with a name and a company logo she had seen before on tall buildings around the city. The name was of a man who was clearly very rich, someone whose life was the complete opposite of hers. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring at the wallet. Her hunger screamed at her to take the money and run. Just one hot meal, just one night in a warm motel room. Was that too much to ask? But another voice inside her said something else. This isn't yours. She shut the wallet and held it tight in her hands. The choice felt heavier than the cold wind. Around her, she looked at the business card again. There was an email address and a phone number. If she called, would anyone even believe her? Would they think she had stolen it? She walked slowly toward the small public library nearby. They let people use the computers there for free. Maybe she could send an email before they closed for the night. Inside the library, it was warm and quiet. The bright lights made her feel even more out of place in her torn jacket and messy hair. But she didn't care. She sat at one of the computers and typed slowly, carefully. She wrote that she had found a wallet belonging to this man. She left her email and asked them to tell her where to return it. For a few minutes, she just sat there staring at the screen after sending the email. What if nobody replied? What if they thought she was lying? She shut the computer and walked back into the night. The cold hit her harder this time. At the shelter where she sometimes slept, a few people laughed when she told them she was waiting for a reply. "Girl, you're crazy," one man said with a rough laugh. "If I found that money, I'd be eating steak right now." But she didn't answer him. Something deep inside her told her she had done the right thing. She didn't know why, but she felt it. Later that night, as she tried to sleep on the hard cot in the crowded shelter, she thought about the wallet lying safely in her backpack, about the man who had lost it, about whether he would reply. She had no idea that this small choice she made on a cold evening would change everything about her life. The next morning, the city woke up to sunshine after a long night of cold winds. People rushed to work, carrying coffee cups, staring at their phones, honking at each other in traffic. But the girl wasn't thinking about any of that. She sat on the steps of the public library, the wallet still in her backpack, waiting. Her stomach ached from hunger again, but her mind was too full to think about food. She kept checking the old phone she carried, a cheap one someone had given her months ago. The screen was cracked and the battery barely lasted, but it still worked. At 9:30, the phone finally rang. She jumped. The voice on the other end was calm, professional. It was the billionaire's assistant. "Is this the young lady who found Mr. Williams' wallet?" The voice asked. "Yes," she said softly. "Mr. Williams would like to meet you today," the assistant said. "Can you come to his office?" "At noon? He wants to thank you personally." For a moment, she couldn't speak. She had expected maybe someone would come and take the wallet. She hadn't expected this. Yes, she finally said. The assistant gave her the address. She had seen that building before. It was one of the tallest in the city, the kind where the glass windows shone so bright in the sun that you had to look away. After the call ended, she just sat there for a while, trying to believe what had happened. When she returned to the shelter to get ready, people were curious. "Did they call?" One woman asked. "Yes," the girl said. "And?" "They want me to come to the office." Some people laughed. "Careful," a man said with a grin. "Rich people don't give you nothing for free." Another woman, older and kinder, touched her arm. "Maybe it's a good thing," she said. "Go see what they want. Who knows? Life changes in strange ways." The girl nodded quietly. She didn't want to expect too much. She had learned long ago that life gave nothing easy. She looked at herself in the small mirror near the sink. Her jacket was torn, her shoes were old, her hair needed washing. She did the best she could with what little she had. By 11:30, she was standing outside the tall building. People in suits walked in and out, talking fast, looking busy. She felt small standing there with her backpack, clutching the wallet. Inside, the security guard at the door looked at her twice, then asked for her name. When she told him, he checked something on his tablet, then nodded. "They're expecting you. Take the elevator to the 40th floor." She stepped into the shining elevator. The walls were mirrors, and she could see her nervous face staring back at her. The elevator moved so fast it made her ears pop. When the doors opened, a woman in a neat suit greeted her. "Come with me," the woman said kindly. "Mr. Williams is waiting." They walked through a large office space with glass walls and expensive furniture. People typed on computers, made phone calls, carried files. The girl felt every eye on her torn jacket and old shoes. Finally, they reached a big office at the end of the hall. The woman opened the door and smiled. "Go on in." The girl stepped inside. Behind a large desk sat a man in his 50s, wearing a dark suit. He looked up from his laptop and smiled warmly. "You must be the young lady who found my wallet," he said. She nodded slowly. "Please sit," he said, pointing to the chair across from him. She sat carefully, holding the wallet in her lap. Leaned back, studying her. "May I have it back?" She handed it over. He opened it, checked the contents quickly, then looked at her. "You didn't take a single dollar," he said softly. "Why?" The girl swallowed hard. "It wasn't mine," she said. "It wouldn't be right." For a long moment, the man just stared at her. Then he smiled in a way that made her feel both nervous and curious. "Do you know how many people would have kept it?" he asked. She shook her head. "Almost anyone," he said. "But you didn't. You have no idea how rare that is." She didn't know what to say. She had only done what felt right in her heart. She wasn't expecting anything in return. He leaned forward. "Tell me about yourself," he said gently. The girl hesitated. Nobody had asked her that in a long time. The girl sat on the edge of the chair, her hands twisting in her lap. The billionaire's office felt like another world. The walls were lined with shelves full of books and awards. The carpet was so soft it didn't make a sound when you walked on it, and the big windows looked out over the whole city. She had never been this high up in a building before. From here, the streets below looked like lines on a map. Tiny cars crawled along like toys. The billionaire leaned forward slightly, elbows on the desk, studying her face. "Tell me about yourself," he said again, his voice calm but curious. The girl hesitated. She had spent so long keeping her story to herself. Most people never cared enough to ask. But something about the way he spoke made her feel like he really wanted to know. I used to have a job," she began softly, "at a small cafe. It wasn't much, but it was enough to pay rent. I lived with my mother." She paused, her eyes dropping to her hands. "Then my mother got sick," she said quietly. "I stayed home to take care of her. I thought I could find another job later. But the bills kept coming. She passed away 2 months ago. After that, I couldn't keep the apartment. The rent was too high. So I ended up on the streets." The billionaire didn't speak. He just listened, his expression unreadable. She went on, her voice barely above a whisper. "I tried to find work. But when people see you with no address, no nice clothes, they don't want to hire you. It's like, once you fall this far, nobody wants to help you back up." For a moment, the only sound in the office was the faint hum of the air conditioner. Finally, the billionaire leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving her face. "You found my wallet," he said slowly, "and you didn't take a single dollar, even though you needed it." She nodded. Double wow. He asked again, almost as if he couldn't understand. She met his eyes for the first time. "Because my mother always told me, money that isn't yours will never bring you peace. I didn't want to steal from anyone. Not even someone I don't know." The billionaire sat very still. Her words seemed to echo in the quiet room. He looked down at the wallet on his desk, then back at her. Something in his face had changed. The sharpness in his eyes softened, replaced by something else: respect, maybe even guilt. "Do you have anywhere to stay tonight?" he asked suddenly. The question caught her off guard. "There's a shelter," she said slowly. "Sometimes they have space." He leaned back again, drumming his fingers lightly on the desk as if thinking. "You know," he said after a long pause, "I've met hundreds of people in business. Rich people, clever people. People who would sell anything, even their conscience, for a profit. And here you are, with nothing. And you have more honesty than all of them put together." The girl didn't know what to say. The billionaire stood up. "Wait here for a moment," he said. He left the room, leaving her sitting there with her heart pounding. She didn't know if she had done something wrong or if he was angry. When he returned, he wasn't alone. Another man came in carrying a folder. The billionaire took it, signed something quickly, then handed it to his assistant. Then he turned to the girl. "I want you to come back here tomorrow morning," he said. She blinked. "Why?" "Because," he said with a small smile, "I'm going to give you a chance. You said no one wants to hire you because of how you look or where you live. I want to change that." She stared at him, not sure she had heard right. "You're giving me a job?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I'm giving you a chance," he corrected gently. "The rest will be up to you." The girl sat there frozen. For the first time in a long time, a tiny spark of hope lit up inside her chest. Girl left the tall building that day with the same torn jacket, the same old shoes, and the same heavy backpack on her shoulders. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel as if the world was pressing down on her. She kept hearing his words over and over again in her head. "I'm giving you a chance." That night at the shelter, she lay awake on the hard cot, staring at the cracked ceiling. The room smelled of damp clothes and tired people, but she didn't notice any of it. Her mind was too full. A chance. She had no idea what kind of job it would be. Maybe cleaning floors, maybe carrying boxes. She didn't care. All she knew was that tomorrow could be the day everything started to change. The next morning, she woke up earlier than usual. She washed her face in the cold water sink, brushed her hair as best as she could, and walked to the same tall building. The security guard recognized her and smiled this time. 40th floor, he said kindly. She rode the elevator up, feeling the same nervous flutter in her stomach as before. When the doors opened, the billionaire's assistant greeted her with a warm smile. "Mr. Williams is expecting you," she said. The girl followed her into the big office. The billionaire was standing by the window, looking out at the city below. When he turned, he smiled. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied softly. He handed her a folder. Inside was a paper with a job offer. "It's an entry-level position at one of my companies," he explained. "You'll have to work hard, show up on time, learn fast. Can you do that?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." "There's also an advance for you," he added, "so you can find a place to stay. You shouldn't be living in a shelter." She stared at him, speechless. "You don't have to pay it back," he said gently. "Think of it as a start." Her hands trembled as she held the folder. "Why are you helping me?" she finally asked. The billionaire looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Because," he said slowly, "I have more money than I will ever need. But yesterday, when you handed me my wallet, I realized something. You have nothing, yet you chose honesty over hunger. That told me you deserve a chance at life more than most people I meet." For a moment, she couldn't speak. The words stuck in her throat. He smiled. "Go to the HR department downstairs. They'll help you with the paperwork. And find yourself a place to stay tonight, a safe one." She nodded, tears burning the corners of her eyes. By afternoon, she had signed the papers, collected the small advance, and walked out of the building feeling like she was floating. First thing she did was buy herself a warm meal, real food, not scraps. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. Then she went to look for a cheap room to rent. It wasn't fancy, just a small place with a bed and a door that locked, but to her, it felt like a palace. That night, she lay in her own room for the first time in months. The bed was soft, the blanket warm, and the silence felt strange after so many nights of crowded shelters that she thought about the billionaire's words again. You chose honesty over hunger. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in a long time, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The first week at her new job was harder than she expected. She had to wake up early every morning, take the bus across town, and walk into an office building filled with people in neat clothes, carrying coffee cups and laptops. At first, she felt out of place. Her clothes were secondhand, her shoes still worn, but no one laughed at her. The manager showed her what to do, how to handle paperwork, answer phones, and organize files. She made mistakes, of course, but she learned quickly. Every day she got a little better, a little faster. For the first time in months, she wasn't just surviving, she was moving forward. By the end of the second week, she had made a few friends at work. They didn't know much about her past, and she didn't talk about it. But they liked her kindness, the way she always smiled even when she was tired. At night, in her small rented room, she would sit by the window and look out at the city lights. Life still wasn't easy, but it was hers again. One afternoon, as she was finishing some paperwork, the billionaire himself walked into the office. Everyone stood up, surprised. He didn't come here often. When he saw her, he smiled. "How's the new job?" he asked. She nodded shyly. "I'm learning," she said. He looked at the manager. "How's she doing?" "Hard worker," the manager said. "Always on time, never complains." The billionaire smiled again, then turned back to her. "Do you remember the day you returned my wallet?" he asked softly. She nodded. "That day," he said, "you gave me more than my wallet back. You reminded me that honesty still exists in this world. That's something money can't buy." She didn't know what to say. He reached into his briefcase and handed her an envelope. "This is for you," he said. She hesitated. I I can't take any more money, she whispered. It's not money, he said. It's a scholarship. If you want to study, if you want to build a better future, this will pay for it. College, training, whatever you choose. She froze, staring at the envelope. You gave me back my wallet, he said quietly. I want to give you back your life. For a long moment, she couldn't speak. Her hands shook as she took the envelope. Thank you, she whispered, her voice breaking. The billionaire smiled. Don't thank me. Just do something great with it. And then he left, as simply as he had come. That night, she sat by her window again, the city lights glowing in the distance, the scholarship papers on her lap. Her life had changed completely because of one choice, because she chose honesty when she had nothing. She thought of her mother, of the lessons she had taught her, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly proud of herself. The future was no longer something to fear. It was something to build.